Sandra. Welcome to another episode of Make Money, Make Cash, putting the law of action back in attraction. And today I've got a hugely special guest called RJ Ahmed, who hosts the Interviews with Entrepreneurs podcast show. He's a business leader in the podcasting industry, and he's an absolutely incredible guy who's really super approachable, humble, and down to earth, despite the fact he's interviewed 6, 7, 8, 9-figure entrepreneurs, including Russell Brunson from ClickFunnels, and so much more. So we're going to dive into RJ's personal story today and then find out how he makes money podcast interviewing these 6, 7, 8, and 9-figure entrepreneurs. I'm an author. I'm sure a lot of them are authors as well. So that you can do the same if you want and get RJ's help as well. So welcome, RJ. How are you doing?
Hey, Sandra, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited for the conversation today.
Yay. It's nice to see you. So where are you calling from? Pakistan?
Yep. Right now I'm in Pakistan.
So you didn't grow up in Pakistan though, did you?
Correct. I was in Saudi Arabia. I was born in Saudi Arabia. So yeah, true.
So are you still Pakistani even though you're born in Saudi Arabia?
Yeah. Like I could say like fortunate or unfortunate, yes, because in Middle Eastern countries, like you don't get citizenship by birth. So even if you're born in there, doesn't matter how long you stay there, you don't get it. So like I've been in Saudi Arabia for 18 years after I born, and then stayed 18 years consistently without moving to any other place. But they still don't offer you citizenship or stuff like that. So it's kind of like an unfortunate incident, you could say.
Weird.
Yeah.
How did you get from Saudi Arabia to Pakistan? Was it to do with business that you came over originally and you thought, I want to go to Pakistan because that's where it's at? Or was it for a different reason?
Yeah, so it was definitely a different reason. So 6 years ago, prior to like 6 years ago, like I was teaching tuition with my mother. I was making around like, $100 a month. Just mind you, like I was like, 17 or something around that time. And I was pretty happy with it in the first place because I was, as a kid who's getting like some pocket money of like, assisting her, his mother for doing the tuition stuff and getting paid for it, and then use that money for whatever the needs are, like buying PlayStation, buying games, stuff like that. All those needs are getting met. Like what else a kid want that time? So that was the exact same case for me. And I thought, okay, I'm gonna get my college done. I'm gonna get my degree. Gonna do a job, and that was the circle of life that I thought in the first place. But in 2017, my family actually decided to move to Pakistan, not for a certain condition because I wasn't into a business at all. So it wasn't my decision. It was a family decision to move, even though like I didn't enjoy it at first, because when I came to Pakistan, the culture is not exactly the same, right? So like in Middle East, it's more of a mixture of different countries and different types of people like Pakistani, Indian, Arabic, or again more nationalities from Arab. And in Pakistan, I was watching only Pakistanis for the first time. Like everybody's here living a different sort of a lifestyle, different culture. Things were different, so it was harder to consume in the in the first moment. So it was challenging. It was kind of like depressing in the start, because I was like, I want to go back. I want to go back. I was kind of like adamant of the point, but obviously we weren't intended to go back for the reason we came for. So, but then like I finished my first year of my college over there, and then I finished my second year of college here in Pakistan. Once I finished my college, I didn't got myself admission in the university here. It was kind of like embarrassing for me in the start because in Asian culture they're kind of like there's kind of like an environment where if you're not able to do something, your other relatives kind of like compare you with the one who actually got those things done, and they're like, hey, you didn't got the admission, your cousin got. So they kind of like try to compare you with that. So it was kind of like a little bit challenging that time because like nobody was understanding those certain situations. So I was completely free for 6 months, completely idle, nothing to do. All of a sudden I saw an ad on around Shopify on Facebook, completely out of the blue. Like I think most of the things that have happened in my life that actually changed the direction for me happened by accident. It's like most of those things is like, hey, this is your way. And it happened by accident. It didn't happen like as planned. So I saw that ad, which actually got me more intrigued about like what's this online stuff, what's this drop shipping stuff like that. So started to do like more research on drop shipping, etc. So so from that time, like I started like got more excited, and I started to build my store, practicing how to do it on Shopify. But then I started to realize like how am I gonna get paid? Because in Pakistan we don't have Stripe, we don't have PayPal, we don't have these main payment gateways which kind of like connect like one end or the other the world. So I was like, let me find what other options I have, because even in the beginning and even right now, I always try to see like what other options I can explore. I don't want it to end up in a victim mentality back then, even not now, based off whatever the circumstances goes. I'm always like, what are the options I can go after? So again, YouTube is the best buddy. I started to search more on YouTube, and I found a guy. His name is Sebastian Gomez. He posted about how to create LLC in US as a non-US resident. So we can form a US LLC in Delaware, Wyoming. We can get a EIN number, which is which is a tax number, and then you can use those things to form a Stripe or a PayPal account for you. So when once I found that strategy, I was like, okay, there is a ray of light, a ray of hope, you could say. So the other thing or the other challenge I had was I didn't have a lot of money. Because when I came to Pakistan, all I had in my savings was somewhere around like $130, something around that, like not more than that for sure. So I was like, the cost of forming the company was $126. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm now sole decision maker of this whole story, because I remember like I was all alone in the room. uh, Everybody was upstairs, and I was all alone, and I was in my mind I was deciding like if I'm gonna do it myself, I will see like how the things would look like. Because one, I wasn't taking money from my parents, and I don't advise teenagers to take money from their parents, because there is kind of like a negative pressure of it. Because then you have to keep yourself accountable for the new things that you are actually trying. uh,
Mm.
Pressure is a good thing. It's not bad, because even if you're investing your own money, you're pressurizing yourself to try something new, but you're not accountable to anybody apart from yourself. I've just like posted like earlier today, and it's I'm not the first guy who actually said it, but I started to realize more, and there have a lot of other people who've said it, is the hardest respect to earn is one's own. So
Yeah.
it is insane, because everybody outside could be like, hey, you're doing amazing job. Inside you, like, is it right?
Yeah.
That question arises.
I think you've got to be careful not to be too judgmental and critical of yourself, because it can stop you
Exactly, but
doing the
you
work. You
you
also
have
got to
to
be
give
accountable.
yourself, yes, you have to give yourself a little bit of easiness, but you have to still come up to a point where there are some non-negotiables of you to realize like, are you, you know, are you actually passing through your own lines that was there, that met that criteria of who you wanted to become. So for me, in my case, like I was like, let's do it. I'm spending my own money. If it's gonna work out, that's fine. If not, again, I was a student, that was kind of like part of my learning. Let's see how that goes. Found my company, started to work on the store. Again, like my budget is all done. Again, instead of ending up in a victim mentality, I posted a story on Instagram, again back in like 2018. If anybody is interested in investing in my company, let me know. So when I posted that, some of my friends who were also my tuition students, they were kind of like curious to know like how that works. Explain them the whole process. I was like, I will give you 30% equity for $200. Let me know if that's gonna work out. They sort of agreed, but I told them like, if it's gonna work out, that's cool. If not, like, it might be a lesson for you. So I don't
Oh,
want it to like show them like, hey, you're gonna make a lot of money like gurus in the internet marketing space. So I started my dropshipping store in Black Friday 2018. It didn't work out. It's crazy to even like it's crazy to even think about it,
it
because I
didn't work.
lost.
It
It
didn't
didn't
work
work out.
out. Oh my lord!
Yeah,
For
because
you, that must have been so scary for you. How were you feeling at that
it
moment?
was it was definitely scary, because it's like you're watching a lot of people making a ton of money, and then you start to realize like, what am I doing wrong that it didn't work out? And again, when I realize there are a lot of variables. One is not choosing right products, not having enough money to test ads, and then again, like money to have fulfillment stuff. So many different variables. I thought like spending $10 getting an order is the ideal way to do it, and it's not.
Can I
So
just ask you, what products were you selling? Can you tell us that?
yeah. So the two or three products that I actually decided to promote that time, there was kind of like a USB plug keyboard cleaner, a little mini vacuums, the way you can like
I
clean your
just got
keyboard.
one of them recently, and I wondered, should I sell it online? You know, so if I get some more of them because it looks so cool.
Yeah, I mean, like that was the very first product I thought to sell, and second product was they were pendants, which was like super viral like a couple of years ago, which was like 100 languages. I love you in 100 languages. There was a mini pendant. If you put light on it, it can like project it on any way you want, or you can,
Wow.
if you want to like see it through your
I,
camera, you can see in 100 languages. I love you. So
I'm
these
loving
were the
these
main products.
products. It's a shame you haven't got them at the moment. Although I've got my little vacuum USB one.
Yeah, I mean, like these were the two main products I was trying to like sell. It were like pretty, pretty in the eyeballs for a lot of people that time. So I was promoting, decent products. But again, there were so many different variables, ad copies. It wasn't working according to my plan, and I was like, spent $20, and I'm realizing why it's not working. So 10% of my budget is already gone. So that thing is already done, and then I'm like what should I do like to make these things work out, and those things weren't working out for me in the first place. And then coincidentally, again, second thing that happened by incident is there was Instagram post that went through, and I saw like a post was something like, this guy made $3 million in 90 minutes, Russell Brunson, co-founder of ClickFunnels. So that post got me like so much intrigued. I was with my mother and I was telling her like how the hell that guy made $3 million from a stage. Like, what did he do to make like 3 million? I was so skeptical about it. So again, like I started to dive deep in the world of funnels, because I didn't knew what funnel was, and I was watching a lot of marketers on YouTube talking about like you have to pass them through a sales funnel. I was like, what is a funnel? Like, is
And
it like filling up? Yeah, is it filling up oil tank, water tanks? What it is? Because the thing is like, one, English is not my first language, so it was so hard for me to first come up with these terminologies, understand what it means. It took me, you won't believe it, but it took me a 1 week. I was searching like massively on YouTube, like how to send emails and receive, how to add email, or how to like opt in. I didn't knew the word of opt in, how to enter any email in any input and receive a reply of email automatically. I didn't knew the exact word, which is called autoresponder. You know, I didn't knew the exact word, and I wasn't able to like fathom like how this process actually works. That's how noob I was in the beginning. So there were a lot of challenges for me. So when I got into the world of ClickFunnels, I just signed up for ClickFunnels, and on a trial, I signed up under Paul Motley, which was he was like super helpful for me because I didn't knew how to speak English, and I was kind of like stuck. I didn't know how to converse, but he was kind of like motivating me, like you can do it, like let's find a way to make it work. And there were some other guys inside of ClickFunnels team who were helping me out, extending my trial every 2 weeks for ClickFunnels.
wow, they
Yeah,
must
so
have
from
really believed in you to
yeah,
do that.
like I'm still connected with the guy who actually did that. His name is Naiko Niogra, and I'm still connected with him, like, after 5 years.
Wow.
So I still like casually like talk with him like every, couple months or so. So he was extending my trial every 2 weeks just to see like if I'm able to like make any money out of it or not. If not, he was extending every 2 weeks. So
How
from
did
January,
oh,
sorry,
I was going to say, how long did that go on for?
it went at least for 2 months.
From January,
Yeah.
you were saying.
Yeah, from January to March, he was keep extending the trial. I was like, please, if you can do it, that would be great. He was like, okay, cool, let's do it. Let's find out a way just to make things work out. So on March 9th, 2019, there was a guy who needed a Facebook ads course, and I was like, hey man, I might be your guy, and we were having these like quick conversation. And I told him like, if you want to get this like Facebook ads course, you can possibly buy one funnel away from my link, and I can get you this ads course. He was like, okay, sounds like a good deal. So he bought one funnel away. I made my first sale. And that was the biggest life changing moment for me because I realized it is possible for me to make money online. That was a 4 minute mile for me. And I realized that if I can make $100 in a day, which is my monthly expense for hostel for a couple months, like what is the possibility for me to do? So that was the light bulb for me. right?
Yeah.
So that was kind of like the whole journey, the ups and downs for me in the first place, how things went through.
So when I'm just curious, I want to go back a little bit.
Yeah.
Shopify first. You said you had 3 products. What was the third product?
So if I remember exactly right, I was promoting some sort of a watch, which I shouldn't, because I was treating my store as if like a general store where where I wasn't selling any sort of a niche product. For people outside who might not understand how business works, for them it was cool stuff like, hey, I have a store. But for
Yeah.
me, I knew like it is not working.
This is
Right?
really this is really valuable information, because obviously a lot of people who are new to business, they think I'm going to get these awesome products, I'm
Yeah.
going to make an e-commerce store and people are going to buy these products and I'm going to make hundreds and thousands of millions of pounds and I'm going to be like a millionaire within
Yep.
6 months or a year. And so I want to us to explain to the audience that that
Exactly.
isn't the case. Just because you seem to have awesome products, like you say, you need an audience for them, you need a demand for them. Do you want to go into a bit more into that, because you kind of have that more experience, don't you, about the niches?
Yeah. I mean, see, like the very first thing I started to realize is a lot of people try to do sexy stuff first that does not work out and might not give you the result, and they get stuck on the unsexy side. And it happens for a lot of people, even sometimes including me. Like I won't deny it. We do like all these stuff that would look cool in the eyes of other people, but the things that don't look cool is the actual revenue driver,
Mm.
right? So one thing what I realized was, again, like I haven't went back and retried on building a one store again. I feel like if I do it now, maybe with better resources, with better people, I can possibly make it work out now this time. And again, like better finances, that's also a big plus. But most people don't realize you're not there to be a next Amazon. You have to be somebody like someone who could be a category king in a certain niche. So if somebody be like, okay, we were talking about that keyboard cleaner USB, like what is the best place to buy that? Okay, that website. So that
Yeah.
reference of that certain website to be known for that certain product is the definition of being the king in the niches. So that is so important for most people to understand. And I won't deny, I think a lot of people have this itch of thinking about like, hey, we want to do this and that and that. The art is holding yourself to a point so that you can work only on the thing you could be possibly expert at. And then maybe if you want to experiment, cool, that's fine. uh, and that happens everywhere, even in any other business you want.
Yeah, I know with entrepreneurs, it's like we get the shiny object syndrome, don't we? And we're like, we have so many creative ideas. It's like we want to do this, and
Yep.
this. And I
Correct.
think we do always learn from it, but you need to find something that you can really like, is really what you're passionate about, I think.
Yes.
Was that a drop shipping store, or was that you buying products, housing them somewhere yourself, and then, you know, trying to sell them? So did you have stock, or was it drop shipping? I know some
It was
people.
drop shipping.
Ah, right,
Yeah.
okay. Can you
Yeah, it was
explain
a drop
how
shipping
that
model.
works for people who
Yeah.
don't know?
So the advantage of drop shipping model is you don't have to stock inventory. It is like you are kind of like a bridge between your customer and the supplier. And what happens is like when you receive an order on your site, you've actually sourced images and stuff like that from either from vendors or from other platforms. You put it on your website. When customer comes in and order on your site, then you place order to the vendor or the other website and ships it. Not even like comes it into your storage or anything like that. Ships it directly to the customer. So that was the kind of like the basic ideal way to do it. And then if you want to like make it more advanced, then you add storage and like have it received to you and do custom package. But like in most cases, that's how the model was, at least in the beginning of like when I actually went through that. But that is the basic idea of like how dropshipping works. So you're the middle bridge, and you're not hosting anything. You're just connecting the source to the customer.
So in terms of the place where you actually then place the order, who sends it to the customer, how does that work? If did they ever run out of stock? Because my fear would be, all right, I'll sell like 200 of something in my wildest
Yeah.
dream at once, and then I go to the manufacturer, all the distributor or supplier, I'm assuming,
Yeah.
depending on who you've got the kind of arrangement with. And if they turn around and go, oh, I'm sorry, we've only got like 50, or we're out of stock because we've sold out, and we haven't got any, like, how do you then deal with that customer,
Hmm.
those customers that were expecting their goods? And do you automatically have a system where once a customer inputs details into your system, it then goes straight to the distributor, manufacturer, or supplier? Or do you have to then type it all in yourself? And is it the distributor, is it the supplier, or is it the manufacturer that sends the products?
Yeah. So for some process, yes, there are softwares that kind of like automate the process, because what you're doing it in that case, there were some softwares. For example, Oberlo was a software that was used in a dropshipping store. What you do is like when you're using tools like Oberlo, instead of uploading images manually in Shopify, you're one of very first thing you're doing is like, for example, you're going to AliExpress or anything like that. You're choosing which product you want to import. You click on the button. There was an additional button just gets pops up. It will automatically move those things so that it's kind of like syncing each other,
Yeah.
so that that product automatically gets synced, so that when order comes in, you have the ability to fulfill orders mostly automatically. You're not doing a manual process for that. Obviously, like in some cases it could happen, the product quantities get reduced, or the seller is like completely sold out. You can find replacements of like which other vendors are doing it, might be exactly the same, or something like really very similar. Like most of the cases, it's like when you're sourcing product from website like AliExpress, it was like many products you can find identical. So then you can find a replacement person and then use that person to source it, and then they might require a little bit of manual work, but you can still like bypass that. That was the ideal way of how things were going in the beginning. Things might have like transformed a bit, like how people are doing it now, but I still think like in some cases it's still working for some people.
Yeah, there's a lot of advertising with people who do that in the UK, but they use UK drop shippers
Yep,
specifically because it takes so long to get stuff from abroad. And like, people complain, it can take 6, 8, 12 weeks to get products. So from
exactly.
AliExpress and stuff. And I thought AliExpress only allowed you to buy in bulk anyway. I didn't think it allowed individual.
So AliExpress, so there are two websites. One is like Alibaba, and second is AliExpress. Alibaba have you buy in bulk, but in AliExpress you can buy like a single piece and you would
Ah,
be good.
that's really good.
Yeah,
So then you went to you saw Russell Brunson's ad. You saw was it Instagram, a post on
yeah. It
Instagram?
was on Instagram. It was these like motivational pages who
Oh
do
yeah.
these like posts. That one of those guys actually did this like post of like this guy made $3 million in 90 minutes. So
And
type of stuff.
you thought a funnel according to your book, Decades and Days, which I do have a copy of here, which you tell
Oh,
you
wow.
this story in. You say that you thought the funnel was like was it like when you
Yeah.
put petrol in a funnel in a car?
Exactly, like because ideally the word funnel come from there, right? Because you're filtering it, and that's how the funnel structure is. You're kind of like filtering stuff, and that's how the funnel word came along. Is like filtering people out from the people who never know who you are, to the people who might know who you are, to the people who know who you are, to the people who are actually now buying from you, right? So that's kind of like the structure of how the funnel is. But I didn't knew the word funnel is used in marketing. I knew it using it in real life, terminologies.
Yeah,
So yeah.
I think this is amazing. So then did you get your ClickFunnels funnel first and then became affiliate for them, or did you get the
I
affiliate
became
become an affiliate first and then do the trial?
So I think both things happen like simultaneously, because Sebastian, when I was following Sebastian, the guy I was talking about who created the video around LLC, he had some sort of like content where he was giving his funnel. So I just like when I signed up for the funnel, I signed up for ClickFunnels affiliate program like simultaneously. So I put that funnel, sign up for ClickFunnels, sign up for the affiliate program, and then like setting things up to see like how it work and how I can promote ClickFunnels as an affiliate. So it was kind of like a simultaneous process. So it's just like when I went into it, I went it on kind of like side by side, not like figuring out ClickFunnels game and then see if they had, because when I got attracted to ClickFunnels, attracted as an affiliate marketer. I was like, okay, cool, let me try. And that is something which is really crazy about, especially in my personal journey, is like anytime I try to like say or deny anything, that is the only thing that comes through in my life. Because because it's crazy how things goes, and like how the whole life structure is. Like, I don't want it to come to Pakistan in the first place. It happened, right?
Yes.
However you want to call it, for us, like, it's kind of like God's play. I didn't
Yeah.
want in a city where I am right now. I love r- now, but I don't want it to be in this city in the first place.
Yeah.
Right? I ended up in this university of this exact same city where I said, like, like, I don't even like the name of it, and I'm here. Right? Same thing happened with affiliate marketing, because I didn't like the method of affiliate marketing when I was hearing about it while I was drop shipping and I was watching these ads coming along. I just didn't like it. And again, that's the exact same thing that happened. I went into affiliate marketing. That was the first venture. So it's kind of like the God's play happened with me. It's like anytime I try to like deny some things, it's like God's like, you have to do this. That is the part of the process. So that's something what happened with me a lot of times.
Yeah, because I believe that everything happens for a reason, and I
Yep.
believe there are no coincidences in life, just lessons we learn from and where we're meant to be at that specific part in our journey. So I'm really big, I'm very spiritual, so I'm very
Mhm.
guided by my intuition at all times. And if
Yep.
I feel I've got to do something, I do it, even if it doesn't make complete sense. I just go for it, and I know that everything will work out okay at the end, even though
Mhm.
I'm nervous about it. At the same time, I have this inner knowing that it's going to be fine, Sandra. Do you know what I mean? I think that really helps. So, in terms of affiliate marketing, how does that model work for people who don't know? And how did you go from giving someone a link to actually getting them to click through it, and presuming they made a purchase, did they, to get their
Yep.
money? So how does that work for people who don't
Yeah.
know?
So for people who don't know affiliate marketing, it is a simple process of you promoting other people's product, and if somebody actually buys through your own unique link, you get paid. I think
Yeah.
that's the simple definition of affiliate marketing is. In my case, that person actually bought the one funnel away challenge, which was $100 product by ClickFunnels, and it provides you 100% commission that time. Right now it's not. Things have been changed. So 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 yeah, like I got paid like $100 because that person opted in for ClickFunnels, with the ClickFunnels product, and then like I got paid $100. But then, one, I got super excited because it broken the 4-minute mile for me, and it started to have me realize that it is possible for me to make money online. But second was, I started to like be more excited and to see, like, if I can like replicate the process I've done with this person, let me try to do with all the others. And the process was, try to provide as much of value I can possibly do. Now, it might sound cliche for a lot of people, like, value.
What
So
does
so a
that
lot of
mean?
people,
What does that mean?
exactly, what does that mean? A value actually means, like, if you're providing any source of time, money, energy to other person or to help other person, that is a value in any perspective. If I'm providing any my time to you and helping you out, like, that's value, right? So but once I understood that meaning, I was like, okay, let me do one thing. As per as my knowledge, or as per me gaining my knowledge, I can provide any help anybody need inside of ClickFunnels community, and I will help them out and see if they're interested for anything after that. So that's exactly what I started to do. Anybody is posting anything inside of ClickFunnels or any other relevant groups, I started to comment a lot of like whatever the help they needed, so that they can perceive me as some of the expert in the industry, so they can ask some follow-up questions, and I can see like where they're standing, and if they're at a good point, I could possibly offer them any other, like, bonus for them to buy the product with me. So that strategy was something I started to do, probably like until I made like at least $2 or $3,000 for sure, like something around that mark, from $0 to $3,000. That was exactly my strategy, what I was doing. That was my whole game plan. Is like, I want to be like more active inside of ClickFunnels group. I wanted to make sure, like, I post comments earlier than most people, so that I stay on top, and that person maybe like reply me earlier, and then we start conversing in Messenger or whatever, and then see like where that person actually leads to. That was the exact strategy I was going after. But that value part actually stuck me all the way through still now, because once you understood the meaning of value, things start to change for you. So yeah, like, that's how things transition for me for through affiliate marketing.
So when you say commenting, do you mean you created a post yourself, or you were commenting always on the top post in that group?
Yeah. So what I was doing, like I've actually kept notification turned on in ClickFunnels group. So anytime a new post get pops up, you get notified. So I was posting in other people's post, and just to see like what are the problems they're having. Do I know the solution? If yes, let me comment, and let's see how things can go from there. Again, I'm not the only person who is commenting, right? So it means
Yeah.
like there are a lot of people who are doing it. The
Yeah.
most thing is like how you can try to make yourself unique so that people can possibly like perceive you as an expert. And then the other thing is like during that time it was like if somebody's like actually if you send a message to somebody, if you commented on a post and they click on like move their cursor on your profile, your profile pops up a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Or if they can like go to your profile just to see how your profile looks like. So all of those are kind of like a prerequisite, because if you're passing up all of those things but your profile sucks, simple as it is, it's like they're gonna be like, that man have to sort out his life first, and
Yeah.
then he can come back to me. So that is kind of like a prerequisite coming through. So that's what exactly what I was doing, commenting, trying to help people out, and then see like if those things work out for them or not.
So what did you have on your profile, and what type of, you said you were giving them like a bonus, were you, or some sort of
Yep.
other product? What was that about? What did you do?
So So the bonuses what I was offering in the beginning was because since I've signed up under somebody else, uh, let's say in case like Sebastian Gomez, etc. One of the bonuses he had was you can leverage our bonuses for yourself to give it to your clients. And he have these trainings been created like how to use Facebook organic, how to create your own funnel, how to use the email side of it. I'm not gonna say like all of them worked, but it is a pretty good way to start stuff. So I would really appreciate that it wasn't starting from a blank canvas. It is like you have something in play, and then you can see like how things can go from there. It was great trainings for sure. So like we had all of these assets, so though all of them became a bonus, right? Because in the beginning, I didn't knew how to create offers. I didn't knew how to create affiliate offers because I sold one funnel away challenge. I haven't bought it for myself first.
Ah, I was
So
wondering that if you did
yeah,
that or
I've actually bought it like a month later or 2 months later, something around there, because I was like, if I'm
not.
selling it, I would love to test it out just to see how good it is, and it was really good. I was like, I felt like so enjoying watching the videos by Steve and Russell, and it was so good how they were actually being taught, and I started learning a lot of things around building offer, like process of Dream 100 was the first thing I got it through one funnel away challenge. So I started learning myself, and again, it's not necessary for you to promote only the product you buy, but I think the most important thing for you to realize is you have to be at least well versed what the product is about. You cannot
Yeah.
bypass objections if you don't know about the product. If I'm going to ask you, like, hey, Sandra, like, tell me about this product, why should I buy it? If you haven't have any idea apart from like, hey, come and buy, it's not going to work out. Because they're going to be like, you don't even know about it. Like, how come I can buy from you? So that's the important thing. You have to be aware of like how the products work, the ins and outs, so that you can still be able to like defend it if somebody asks from you any certain questions. So I think that's the most important part, that came into play with it.
And you said with a profile, what was on your profile that needed to be on there compared to someone who just has any old profile up and they're not following consistency?
Yeah, I mean, so I think the most important thing to realize is even right now when I receive, for example, like couple of friend requests a day, something like that, the first thing I check is their profile,
Yeah.
right? If somebody's saying like they're SEO expert, and then I've not seen any content around SEO on their profile, and they're sharing all their all these like personal memes, jokes, it's
Yeah.
like that's who you are representing. I mean, like, I'm not saying you cannot do that because that also becomes a part of sort of your identity, but if that's all you do is like you're showing me like who you are, so that's the opposite. I was doing, I was like posting content, let's say around affiliate marketing, like do's and don'ts, the things that I'm learning. And so I was kind of like sharing, and then again my cover photo was like I help entrepreneurs make money through affiliate marketing, stuff like that, so people knows like I'm really into the affiliate marketing game. So at least when somebody comes, they can see like the content is there. So that's the most important part. So
Yeah.
that's exactly what I was doing that time. Honestly, I'm not gonna say it was all well strategized. It was like what I'm watching other people do, and then I'm just trying to become the part of the process and trying to see like how things work out. It wasn't like completely planned, but it was like I'm just trying to gather information like here and there and see like what could work out, what could not, stuff like that. So yeah, that's something like what was happening on my profile that time versus the others.
I think it's really important because I had a guy in my inbox on one of my business pages the other day, and he's a YouTube expert. He's got a lot of followers actually, but he can't even spell the word YouTube in his post. He put YouTube, put a B instead of the B, and I'm like, you can't even spell YouTube. Like,
Yeah,
and then he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry about that. It's a mistake." And then he still got the post up and still trying to hassle me to for me to have his services. It's like I don't want to work with someone like that. It's completely unprofessional. And I got someone on LinkedIn again saying they're an expert, and I'm like, okay, provide me with some, customers' testimonials. Show me
mhm,
examples. Nothing. So there is a lot of people I feel that do come into this space and they're like, I'm an expert, and they've got nothing. They've just changed their profile on their Facebook like 2 months ago, and they've got a picture
exactly.
starting a new job. And I'm like, oh my Lord. And I'm like, stay clear, people. So you did really well with affiliate marketing. Now you are doing interviews with Entrepreneur Show. How did that go from creating funnels to doing a huge podcast show that's like a
Yeah.
top podcasting show on Apple and Spotify? I think it's on as well, isn't it?
Yep. So again, like when I bought One Funnel Away challenge, there was a concept of Dream 100, which was like super fascinating for me. Again, like Dream 100 was a sort of like a trademark term that actually got me into like trouble a couple of times, not by ClickFunnels, but by the other guy. I don't want to name it at any cost. So yeah, like the process actually fascinated me a lot, because like so for most people who didn't know about the process, like Dream 100 is actually a process where you're trying to like one either reach out to your dream customer or the people who might have your dream customers. There are two ways to do it:
Oh,
either your dream customers directly, or the people who might be your dream customers, or you build connection with these people in such a way where they can like share your product, stuff like that. It was founded by Chet Holmes, who actually wrote the book The Ultimate Sales Machine. And then that method was actually kind of like made it more notable by Russell Brunson, from possibly a decade or so. So yeah, that was the process looks like. So it was so fascinating for me, that idea that if somebody endorses you, even though their audience might not know you, they would love to check you out, to check your product, just because that person endorsed you in the first place. I'm like, I don't need to build audience my own, and I can borrow other people's audience, and if they're happy or they're willing to do it, it's a win. I'm not doing anything from scratch, right? So that was definitely a big point for me. And then Russell was definitely talking about the concept of using Dream 100, using interviews, that you can invite experts on your show, and then promote that show so that they can like share it, and then you can sort of like build that connections. Obviously there are some nuances to it, but on the on the macro side, that's what actually Russell told. I was like, okay, cool. But for me, the problem was, one, again, English is not my first language, and second is like, as I mentioned earlier, like a lot of things I've said, like I'm possibly never gonna do, like God's plan, because I never thought I will be on camera. I never thought I'm gonna do public speaking at all. Uh, and in English, like not a chance. So uh, I never thought I'm gonna do any of those, because I had a piano channel. I was playing piano, like yeah, just as sort of like a sort of like a passion, or I just wanted to like just learn it or whatever it was. So I reached 1,000 subscribers, and I thought I will create a face reveal video, and I never did it. I never did a face reveal video because I was like, I don't want to like be on camera. I hate how I look on camera, stuff like that. And now I'm here, like having a conversation with you, and doing all this stuff. So all of those things were my objections. But one thing I've learned from Russell was like, if you want to be a leader to your audience, you have to like show it to them. If you were like go to left and you're going to right, you're kind of like opposing your own beliefs. So my very first interview was happened with Alex Elliott, back in like 2019, I would say. And I was in my hostel. It was 4 a.m. I was using a 10-year-old laptop with no mic, no camera, nothing like that. I had my laptop, put up on my pillow in my lap on my pillow, and then my laptop, horrible lighting, and I was doing it. And because that's how you actually start. You start ugly. That's the main thing most people don't realize. You can have perfect setup and talk like shit. Simple as
This
it
is
is,
true. Yeah.
right? Because you can have like all the things, but the main thing that what people are coming for is what you're speaking, is your knowledge and how you speak it. That's the main thing what people are coming on. If people can at least like listen you, like audio is a little bit more important than how the video looks like. If people can listen you, like their job is done. They can listen to your message. If it's working for them, that's completely fine. Awesome. So that's how I exactly started out, and that's how I actually proceeded with it. I did the very first interview with Alex Elliott. I didn't know how to use Zoom in the start. I used her Zoom account, and she went live, and I portrayed as a host, and she was a guest. And I did the interview stuff like that. I was hesitant, but I started it out. And some of my interviews I've done was horrible. Even prior to starting my show, it wasn't good. And in 2020, then I've started my show with the name because I was doing it live on in my Facebook group without like branding it. I'm like, if I'm not labeling it, it's like it's not counting anywhere. It's like, okay, I'm doing it in my group, but it's not counting it as something, right? So I was like, okay, let me choose a name. And I was fluently just using the word interviews with entrepreneurs because it kind of like tells the objective of what it is. So then I simply just named it Interviews with Entrepreneurs, which is, by the way, not a recommended name to do because it is super hard to rank in keywords that are so broad. It's like if you search interviews with entrepreneurs, in a lot of cases you find like guys like Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk. It gets so competitive. But it took a lot of time for us to kind of like gain attraction in those certain keywords. So if people search it, we pops up. So we used that name. The very first official guest was Spencer Makem. If people don't know who Spencer Makem is, he's like multi seven-figure affiliate marketer, one of the top affiliates in ClickFunnels, System IO, Go High Level. He touches a product and he becomes super affiliate. That's how his stuff is. Like he's really good into that. So I actually, kind of like attracted him to be my first official guest on the show, and it went so wrong. I still go and watch that interview and I feel so cringy about that
What went
because
wrong?
the things that went wrong was me asking ridiculous questions. Uh, and I was getting too excited. That shouldn't happen. I mean, like you could be respectful, but it shouldn't be like way overexcited. Where you have to think about it in this way: like if you have a celebrity that you follow, admire, adore, and that person is in front of you, and now all you're doing is jumping rather than talking, they're gonna be like, okay, cool, but we aren't here for this,
Yeah.
right? So that's exactly, I was so excited, and I was like, I didn't have any proper words to articulate the message, and I was asking him ridiculous question that if his background is real or virtual, or or if his background is made of wood or plastic. I was trying to ask these ridiculous question to confirm these like crazy stuff. So so when the interview ended, I was like so frustrated with this. I was like, Spencer gonna hate me. Spencer gonna not gonna like me because all of those things are happening on runtime. When you don't have control over your words and when you don't know how to do it, I still try to practice a lot of things. Again, like I'm content, but a lot of things still can be improved. Uh, there are a lot of like filler words that I still use right now, but again, like now I realize of it, and I'm aware, so I know I can like fix it. But that time I was like just going like a bullet. I was just trying to do a lot of things unknowingly for the fact that it's not working well, at least. So I was like, Spencer gonna hate me. He's not gonna reply to me after this interview, because most of the people should realize that when you're interviewing somebody on your show, you're inviting somebody in your house for the first time. It's all the game of experience. whatever you do the first time, that will always last, because you've spent 30 minutes of your time or 1 hour of your time talking with that person. That person will remember you. That is for sure, because they probably have a lot of friends on Facebook, thousands of friends, thousands of people have reacted on their posts, but there's still handful of people who have actually conversed with them intensely,
Yeah.
right? Not a sales call with the objective of selling it. So that thing is just plays a crucial role. And what I've done was trying to be a bad kid when invited a guest on the house, and try to be like weird. So I knew like that was definitely a problem. And second guest I had was Akbar Sheikh. He was my second guest, and third guest was Funnel Doc. It was like better than at least the very first interview I did with Spencer. The fourth or fifth guest I actually got on my podcast, or I think seven or eight, he actually told me, man, your pronunciation is not good. After the interview, he actually grilled me after the interview ended. Yeah, he told me like the way that you were asking question wasn't great. The way you were talking wasn't great. I'm still connected with him. We are good friends, but that time he was kind of like scolding me, like, "Hey, you're not doing things," and I was so disheartened. I was like, I feel like these things aren't working for me. Like, that person actually mocked me the whole time after the interview ends. So it was kind of like, and I was kind of like depressed that time. But I realized that, it doesn't matter. Like, let's go to the other person, because one person's opinion is not going to happen. You will find a lot of bad eggs. Not everyone's nature is not the same. That's the main thing to realize. You can find out a lot of successful people, but it's your job to realize who are the persons, or who are the people that you can align yourself with. You cannot align yourself with everybody. It is common nature. So you have to find people you can align with, so that you can go after that certain direction. So that's something I started to learn. And people started to ask me in the first place, like, how are you doing it? Even though, like, for me, again, that's the exact same thing. The hardest respect to earn is one's own. Even though for me I felt like there are some things that are missing, people were starting to ask, like, how are you doing it, man? Because I was from Pakistan. English wasn't my first language. I was probably around 20 when I started the podcast stuff. So everybody was kind of like curious to know, like, how this guy from Pakistan is doing all of this stuff. They started, like, being a lot more curious. So after I interviewed, I think 11th or 12th guest, Catherine Jones and then Steve Larson. I'm getting Steve Larson back on the show third time.
Nice.
Yeah, in I think in April. So he's getting on the show for the third time. But after interviewing like Catherine Jones and Steve Larson, then I started to understand how the process should be like, how the framework should be, because I've enjoyed those episodes really well, and they've enjoyed the episodes because they told me like the questions were great, and that led me to have the connections with them from then to now. So I was like, okay, I'm starting to learning how to do it. So I've started to see like if other people have something similar interest, and they did. I was like, okay, cool. So that time I created a course for them to like buy, and again, like, I used the word dream 100, which was a trademark word. I've used that word, and people start to like buy in the course because they wanted to learn how to do it, how I'm reaching out, how I'm doing the stuff. So that was kind of like a beginning of like how I started the show. It didn't started presented well, or like, in a beautiful manner. It started ugly, simple as it is. But the thing is, like, started.
Yeah.
What could happen in the worst case scenario? What could happen? All of us are, and recently I've learned this from one of my coach. It's kind of like a sort of like a mindset shift. It's like all of us are in the virtual screen, right? What's the possibility for you to meet these people? Most of the time is almost none.
Yeah.
Like, there are some people you're gonna meet in the course of your lifetime. I met a lot of people out there who I saw virtually first, and then I met in person, and I have amazing experiences. But most of the time, it's like none. Like, you're not gonna meet a lot of these people. What's the possibility gonna happen either ways? So, shoot the shot.
I think that's really good advice. So, how did you get the first entrepreneur to say yes to come on your show and the other
Yeah,
one? How did
yeah.
that happen?
So I would start with Spencer, because like with Alex Elliott, she was doing her promotion. So you just wanted to be on more podcasts. It wasn't like, who have one who didn't. It was like she was like, okay, cool, let's do it. Even though I had 30 people in my group, she was like, okay, let's make it happen. She was really great as a person because we're still connected. I got her last year to do some justice to her. I
Do
was
some
like, I'm gonna, yeah, to do her some justice because I wanted to make sure like now I ask questions
what?
with my
Ah.
current skill set, so
Oh,
that I can make sure I ask her great questions. She loved to answer. A lot of things have changed for her in the past 4 years. Same goes for me. So we did another interview after 4 years from the first time since we did. So if we talk about Spencer, I think most people have to realize, especially when you're doing it for the first time, is you have to create your presence in the mind of that certain person. There's a ways to do it. It's like if somebody have a Facebook group, you can again provide more value there so that that person can see you, that you exist in that community. It will make things easier for you to communicate with that person and then do a possible ask if it's worth it. Same thing
in
I've done
sorry
in
to interrupt you. In the
there.
group, when you said in the group, do you mean your own group or do you mean ClickFunnels and other groups?
So, for example, I was reaching out to Spencer, right? Spencer was my first guest. Spencer
Yeah.
had his own group.
Ah,
He's not,
right. Okay.
yeah, and it's not necessarily have to be like a group. It have to be a place where that person is super active. Spencer is super active in his Facebook group, and then comes his like Facebook profile or Facebook page, whatever it is. But his Facebook group is the main place he's active. So you have to find that sweet spot for anybody you want to reach out. If it's like email, if it's their Instagram, if it's their Facebook, whatever it is, find the sweet spot. In his Facebook group, I was trying to provide value the way it could have been like possible. If somebody had any questions around affiliate marketing, because he have this affiliate marketing group,
Yeah.
I would be the first person maybe to answer it or maybe like to share my opinion and uh, portray it to Spencer that I'm not here to sell something. Or I'm not here to, you know, poach his customers or poach his community. I'm here to serve those people. That's how I kind of like try to create my own personal credibility. And then I reached out to Spencer asking him like, hey, I would love to have you on my show. And it happened also on a really good time because when I got Spencer, there was a traffic secrets launch happening and he was promoting traffic secrets as an affiliate. So I told him like publicly as well, like I will buy a trilogy box set, which I still have. I was like,
Yay!
yeah, I was like, I will buy a trilogy box set through your link if you just give me 30 minutes of your time. Because I was supposed to buying it, but I was like, if you do it, like I would love to buy it as well. So he sent me a message. He was like, hey man, I already owe you the interview slot. Here's the link. Book me up. Don't buy the books only of because of this intention. I was like, I was still supposed to be buying the book and I would love to buy it through your link. You have to realize $150 is not going to change his life. He's a multi-seven-figure affiliate marketer. So so in that case, like things are already sorted for him, but I wanted to keep my words. If I've said that, like I
Yeah.
want to make sure like I actually fulfill it. So I booked the slot, I bought the books, it's still here. So I managed to have him on the show. So when you have one or two person who are successful already, you can use those as a reference to get others, because it is the game of trust, simple as it is. Because it is, in a lot of cases, in some cases it might be pre-recorded that get published. In some cases it's live. The other person is putting trust on the host to ask questions that might not hurt the other person's integrity, uh, right?
Yeah.
So and that could happen anywhere. Like anybody can ask a shitty question and that could screw things up. That person could leave the conversation. That's not the point, but it could hurt the credibility of the other person. Like, why didn't he answer those? So a lot of things can happen. So it's a game of trust. So if you already got somebody who's already in from their circle, and kind of like a cool kids club where you
Yeah.
actually hang out with a cool guy and other people are like, okay, you've hanged out with this, like, okay, let's do it. So that's the kind of like a chain you follow. So when I got Spencer, I reached out to Akbar Sheikh and I told him I already got Spencer on the show. He said, okay, let's do it. Akbar got on the podcast, reached out to Funnel Doc, Jeffrey Bannock. He was like, okay, cool, let's make it happen. That was kind of like a circle of cycle for a decent amount of interviews, and I still up to this day still use this exact strategy of naming people of who I interviewed, because that could create a big relatability. recently, I think a couple of weeks ago, I've interviewed like chief growth officers of Mind Valley. When I reached out to her, I actually told her I've interviewed co-founder of Mind Valley, like Christina, on the podcast. She was like, "Okay, you interview like co-founder, like okay, let's make it happen." So like that, those things make so much easier then when you name drop those people. It won't happen in the first one, but once you get the first one, it just becomes a ripple effect.
So were you in the when you say you were in the inbox of the first person, well, that's literally like sending them a message in Facebook, because I assume these people have tons of messages coming through and they
Yep.
might it'll go through to spam or their other inbox. Like, how did you actually get them to see the message in the first place?
Yeah, so when I send them a message, obviously that's true. There are a lot of times when the message is either in spam or stuff like that. Is again in Spencer's case, I was providing value, and then he somehow accepted my friend request. It's not ideal. I want to like state that fact down. It's not ideal. It's not gonna be in a lot of cases where all of those people are not gonna accept your friend request, right? We want to like set a point where things are ideal. You can
Yeah.
remind them to check your message, and they would love to if you are a good guy. They would love to check your message, and if you have a good vibe, they would love to see if things good. They would love to even like reply you, and see like how things goes. If they want to accept it, that's cool. If not, they will still let you know, like in a nice manner. So that's one way to remind them that hey, I've dropped you a message. Uh, like please check it out. That would be helpful. Thank you. You're not pitching anything, at least from a product standpoint. You're extending an invite for a podcast. If they accept it, that's fine. Sometimes it's like it took you couple tries to book somebody up. Uh, Josh Forty, when I got Josh on the podcast, it took me probably like 1.5 years to book him up. I
Wow.
was into his inbox all that time, but he was either so busy or his focus was on in a different direction. He was so busy. He was like, man, I would love to do this, and maybe like later here and there, back and forth, stuff like that. After 1.5 years, it was like, okay, let's do it. And when he jumped on a podcast, he told us, he was like, man, I said no to a lot of podcasts except you. It was like
Oh,
because the way that you were following up with me was one super respectful, because nobody owes you their time, right?
yeah.
So I think leading down with desperation is something you should avoid. If you're going with like desperate, like hey, that person, well, nobody owes you anything, right?
Exactly.
It's kind of like how you actually want to give it, and same thing you're going to receive. So following up constructively and respectfully is the main key. Sometimes it will take you 10, like in some cases I can show you like offline in my inbox, and I can show you like sometimes I've sent like 10, 12, 13, 14 messages just to get a reply and get it booked, right? uh, so that's the main thing. Right now I'm actually booking up somebody who have you actually saw the Undercover Billionaire, Grant Cardone one? There was a series. There was a series actually where Grant Cardone was sent to an unknown city where he had no presence, and he created his business to $1 million over there. So some of the people who were the part of that city where Grant Cardone helped those guys to build that business, I've actually reached out to them to be the part of my show, so that I can actually ask them like how Grant Cardone actually did it for you or stuff like that. Things like it. And it's been months since I've been having conversation with them, and we still haven't booked it. Yesterday I got a reply and they said let's do next week, but until it's not on the calendar, it's not finalized. So still following up. So respectfully following people up is the best way to go with it, even sometimes if it takes longer to do it.
How long should you leave between like the first message and the next message so you don't seem like you're harassing them or
Yeah,
hassling
yeah,
them? Like, how should that work? Like the message gap
yeah.
and things like that.
I mean, that's a really good point. I would say like anywhere between like 2 weeks or so, something like that, because you have to realize that's not the only person you will be waiting for. You have to go to other people as well. You cannot sit like once that person gonna say yes, then I will go. It's not gonna work like that. So you will go to all the other people and start to work on those people, and then you can possibly get back, once after 2 weeks, stuff like that, and see like if they spark an interest or not. In some cases, the best way to do it is like if they're doing any book launch, is like that is the best way to have them on the show. because they are promoting their books and they would love to be on as much as distribution channels. And if you think about it in this format, if you didn't have a show, you cannot even have them, right? So
Yeah.
it means like you have to have a distribution channel, even though there was nobody in the first place who actually saw it. If you don't have a one distribution channel, you cannot invite somebody on a certain place. It is like having a land with no home and you're inviting somebody over it. Like, what's the point? You have to have a home, and distribution channel is kind of like a home. So yeah, 2 weeks. I think it's pretty like decent at reminding them. If they even like don't respond, still fine. But take a frequency of like 2 weeks just to remind them, and they would be like, oh man, I apologize, I missed the message. Let's schedule this up. So things like that happens. In some cases, people could be like, man, leave me alone. That's still fine. Maybe the person might have not aligned the process with you. Still okay. So yeah.
So are you still studying? Because at one point you were doing your show and you were still at university, I think it was, studying. Are you
Yeah.
still doing that? And how do you
So
juggle that? Managing.
so I've actually got graduated last year. But
Congratulations.
yeah, thank you. It wasn't easy, to be honest, because like again, juggling through it is not an easy thing to do. But I think I've started to realize my priority, it was more around the business side, not the academic side. Because in the beginning, I was trying to see like which thing I should prioritize, like academic or business. But then I realized, like, hey, I don't care about academic a lot. I have to surpass it, because I think it is necessary for me to get a degree, and then see like what are the other options I can explore to move outside of a country and get a better passport. And I think not a respectfully, not a lot of people would be able to realize this as a massive problem. For people who are living in these, like, third world countries, knows the challenge of not having a better passport can have so many difficulties. You not be able to like move into better countries, not be able to explore it much easily. Face a lot of challenges. I got my US visa rejected, and I wanted to attend funnel hacking live last year, and
Yeah.
that actually stopped the process for me.
Oh my God.
So like that is my personal goal. So I've graduated. That was necessary as a stepping stone to choose masters in any other country I can go after. For example, like UK, Ireland, Canada, Australia, whatever tier one countries.
UK is
So
the best. I'm in the UK, I have to say it's the best. I
yep,
had
yep.
like fireworks go off then. Did you see that?
Yep, I saw. So like choosing one of these countries so that we can go on the naturalization path to get a citizenship. So once we have better passport, it's like exploring world becomes much more easier. So during that time, when I realized the academic side is not my priority, I was like, I just have to pass it. Right? It's like I don't have to get like better grades, and I have not got better grades. I got like 2.48 CGPA out of 4. I
What was
as
what did you study? What was your
I
degree?
was studying like bachelor's in computer science. That's yeah. And again, it's not easy. It is a technical, it's technical education. You're learning programming, stuff like that. But in my case, it was like my friend was so accommodating that they were helping me out together. Either in preparation, maybe in test, or whatever it is. They were so accommodating in that part, which was a plus point for me. So I mean, like, you have to have somebody. Either you could be like managing, like studying all the time and then like handling business, or on the other side, you can have like better friends who can, like, give you some relief. In my case, it was better friends. They gave me that relief. They surpassed semesters. And then COVID also played a good role, I think, because when COVID came along, our university was virtual for 4 semesters. So everything was online, so things become much more easier. so so yeah, but it was still a challenge. But I was like, what other options you have? That's the most important thing. If you and there's like some amazing things around it. It's like either you can choose hard early or later. Like, you decide. For me, it was like, let's choose early, and like let's get this shit done, and then let's go to the easy side after that. Things are much more smooth now compared to that time. It was frustrating, but it's like either way we have to deal with it. Why not deal it early? So yeah.
Wow. So in terms of like managing your time like now, how does that look? Do you do interviews over like are they still live or are they all pre-recorded? And do you have it over X amount of evenings or days? Like How does that work? Do you get weekends off, or do you work weekends as well? What does that look like for you?
So not all of those are pre-recorded. Definitely, some of them happens live. Some of them happens pre-recorded, depending upon like how things goes, schedule stuff like that. Uh, that's something that I do like sort of like on a consistent basis, and see like of all of my schedule, it's like since those people might need me, for example, my clients, my team, all of them run by my schedule. But when it comes to like me interviewing a guest, I will explore their schedules. Sometimes when I remember like I interviewed Blake Hutchison, who was the CEO of Flipper. It was 3 a.m. my time, and I was doing that interview because I wanted to do that interview. It was my requirement, my necessity to do it. So in that time, I'm pretty like flexible. But for all the other things, like hey, here's my calendar, just book it up. Don't ask me other question. So things are much more streamlined right now. I'm trying like some new processes because again, when you stay in that one zone or like in the same comfort zone, things might look pretty, but it start to get like more stagnant if you're not learning some new things.
Yeah.
So gotta have a coach. Super grateful for that, and like I have a team who's like running or handling all the deliverables around like podcast stuff here and there, not only for my stuff but also for my clients. So like all of those things got outsourced. I started as a lone wolf, right? I started all alone, but now since I have a team, they've actually like handled all the other things that I was doing earlier for myself, also for my clients. They haven't handled it, so like everything is kind of like delegated that side. So I'm like, okay, now what should I do? So then I start to try new things or new techniques so that I can like at least help the business grow. That's the
Right.
main thing I'm focusing on.
When you say clients, so you interview 6, 7, 8, and 9-figure entrepreneurs yourself,
Yep.
and you still do that part yourself. And then you say you
Yep.
have a team because your business. Tell us how this has transformed into a business for you rather than just interviewing people
Yeah.
now.
So yeah, that's pretty interesting because when I started the podcast, the very first question was people asking me like how am I doing it, and then I created a course and people were buying it, and some people definitely got like some amazing results of like having this conversation. It depends upon like how people implement it, etc. But I started to feel like not everybody is implementing it because it is a overwhelming process. There's still a lot of like nitty gritty stuff that people have to go through, like set these things up, and sometimes people get tired or they aren't consistent enough to get those things work out and they quit after a couple episodes. So I was like, this is frustrating. And in the beginning when I provided the done for you offer, so I started providing this like done for you offer where all they have to do is be on the show, do the interview, and all the things can be handled by my team. In the beginning it was only me, so I was doing like everything else that was required, creating graphics, posting it, uh, teaching them how to be a better host, because that's also important. They're not well versed how to be a better host. Teaching them how to be a better host, getting the interview done and like getting it edited, posting, I was doing all the deliverables by myself uh, in the first place. So I started to realize like that might be a better process for some of my clients. Again, it not everybody gonna pay that, I understand, but for anybody who might have this as a priority and who might not want to try it themselves, like they can explore and use our service. So I provided my podcasting done for you service as my core offer for people to start their own podcast and to run it continuously and to do it. The thing that actually that was like most important is uh, my podcast personally became that sort of like identity of like what it would look like, right? So if somebody's coming on and he's watching me, it's like drinking your own Kool-Aid, the exact same thing we discussed earlier on. If somebody coming on my profile and they're like, crap, he got Russell Brunson on the show, like he got like
Yeah,
this
I wanted
man.
to talk to you about that in a minute. I'm getting
Yeah,
excited.
yeah. Yeah, so like if somebody actually see like, hey, that person I've already got these amazing people on the show and everything looks great. Like I know my show is gonna look like something like that, right? And if it's a shitty one, they could be like, oh, like if that my show looks like that, I don't want to do it. So there are two opinions. So drinking my own Kool-Aid is the best example of it. So I don't need to explain somebody what my offer looks like. I just like explain it like quickly, and they're like, okay, cool, makes sense because you're already doing it for yourself. So for me, doing it not only helped me to elevate my podcast, build connections with the guests, but also keep me relevant in the industry, so that if somebody reaching out to me, they can already see my podcast and get an idea what it's about. So so that's the journey of me monetizing it. And then again, learning from mentors, understood how to create a team, how to create a certain sort of like a system. Again, I'm not saying like I have a massive team. I have like around like 6 or 7 people in my team, still decent, handling most of my fulfillments. And I've learned how to like run systems, create some sort of like SOPs that actually makes my life easier. And I'm not into day-to-day deliverables. That's why I have time on my calendar, and I'm trying to like analyze and see like what other things I should have which can help me to build the business more, more gracefully, or get more clients or stuff like that. So that's the same, that's the main service I'm doing and how I'm monetizing it right now.
Wow, that's incredible. So how those people, do they come to you, or do they come through your group, or do they pop in your inbox and say, "Man, I see what you're doing. I really want to do this." Or how do you find the clients, or do they
Yeah.
seem to just pop up and come to you? How does that work?
Yeah, so a lot of clients who actually came us through was through the referrals. So, like obviously, the very first or second client you could say was definitely direct, and those people were already watching me or watching my podcast from quite some time. And then when I had a conversation with them, I was like, "Hey, I think you should start your podcast because you're on a certain stage where you can start." And for some of them, like it took some time for them to say yes. But one of my clients, when he started, he's still with us after 3 years. So he's still
Wow.
paying us like every single month, and like he's still there, still doing his podcast, stuff like that. Most of our clients who came through earlier on, or even still now, are through referrals. Because those clients, the very first one who came through was definitely consumed our content, and then they were interested, and then they were like, okay, let's do the service. And then the other came along was through referrals, because since they loved the service so much, they loved recommending to others. So these were like kind of like our main two channels, that how clients were coming through. But the third main channel I'm sort of like working on right now is using cold email stuff, because there's a still massive audience who can do things like much a better way to do it, and stuff like that. So I'm like, if I can like learn that art, like it would be amazing to see like how things gonna work out. So in my free time, since I have some sort of free time right now, since I'm not in the fulfillment, that's exactly what I'm sort of like learning and trying to implement, the cold email side of stuff. So yeah, I hope that makes sense.
Have you done any paid ads for your services
For
since the
my service currently, no. I would definitely try it somewhere down the road. I wanted to try something that is like much more massive first, to see like how that works. It's kind of like you choosing, what route might be working for you, because there are so many.
yeah.
There's not one route, right? There are so many routes, and you deciding like which one you want to try first is kind of like the thing for me. So I was like, okay, I want to try like cold email first, just to see how that works out. Because you have to realize, like when you have like a set certain income, you have the you have the ability to experiment and not be desperate of the results, right?
That's a
Because in the
great
beginning, I was
feeling.
desperate. Yeah, because in the beginning, when I was trying everything, I was desperate because I wanted everything like super fast. I'm not getting results. But now I'm like, I know it, things can take time. I can have the capacity to be patient enough, and then money's still gonna come in. So that's the important thing to realize when experimenting. So I was like, okay, let's try cold email first. Maybe like I would see like how paid ads gonna go through and how the structure would look like.
So do you have shareholders actually in your company now? Was that something you just did when you had your first business that didn't work out? Do you have shareholders now, or are you
So
in charge
yeah,
of everything, get all
I
your money
mean,
and pay your
I mean
employees?
that's a really good question. So what happened was, for some of the people, I've actually bought them out. I actually bought their shares, but for some they're still here. But what I did was, they were the part of like that certain different model of businesses. But some of them I created my own, from my own money then, right? Because everybody have their own sort of like shares, it depending on like what they were doing with it. So let's say for affiliate marketing or for some service based businesses, apart from podcast, they still had shares of it. But for podcast stuff, I used my own money to start that thing up. Everything was paid by myself. So I started this like podcast production on my own money, and it wasn't a part of those shares. So it was 100% for me. So the other things are still working and they're still getting paid, but podcast was 100% me.
So do you,
So
when you say the other things, do you still do it? Get money for affiliate marketing and then they're being
yep,
paid out? Oh, you do
yes, yes.
through the one funnel challenge and
Not only one funnel challenge, but there were some other products I actually promoted that worked out pretty well, that were more around the passive side, because it was more recurring commissions. So I was still getting paid on a monthly basis, stuff like that, still right now. So that actually led me to actually pay those my friend investors the money as well, like regardless how much it is, but they're still getting paid for doing nothing for 5 years right now. you know
wow.
so, but the podcast stuff, I realized like I might not be like enough profitable, but I think that was necessary for me to start. That's why when I started the podcast production, I used my own money 100%, so that they are not the part of that deal, and I can get paid 100% of the whole stuff. So that's how like the things get much better.
You've got your own app, haven't you, as well?
Yes. Uh,
Friends funnel, isn't it? Or
yeah,
friend?
it was. Yeah. So I think it's been recent that we actually sort of like discontinued it for a couple of reasons.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah, when we started out, it worked pretty well. We started back in like 2020, and if people don't know what friend funnel was, it was more around sending first automated messages when a new friend is added on Facebook, and you can send these like messages, whatever it was. And then a lot of one competition started to add on, and then there were a lot of other challenges. I think it's been probably a month or so that we discontinued. uh,
Wow.
and we had like some customers like who were there for 4 years. So th-
Wow.
so they stayed for a really long time, but obviously like as time goes and as you get those challenges, and when the focus is not there, it slowly dies out. But I would say like it was amazing learning experience, by learning how to find developers, how to get software created, how to get it tested, how to sell it, how to stay relevant with it. That was definitely amazing experience that helped me to learn how to create another software. I'm working on another one. I'm yet to see like how that would go, but this time I know like, hey, what the process looks like. I'm not going with a blind spots, stuff like that, but it was definitely an amazing experience for
So,
sure.
so how do you know when to quit? You said like you decided like about a month ago to discontinue that. How did you decide that? Because
I
some
think
people have
when
a
you
problem with
Yeah,
that.
I think when you realize like, one, you not gonna be able to like market or fulfill it, right? It is important for that, because you're not gonna get you should not take money from somebody if you know you're not gonna fulfill it either
Yeah.
ways. uh and I discontinued it on the point when I felt like the last customer is like it's not gonna work for that person. So I kept it running until the last customer was still there, and
Yeah.
that last customer stayed there for like 4 years. After that, he actually sort of like quitted it. I was like, okay, cool, I think the purpose is sort of like done of it. I know I'm not gonna market it, because running a software is still, it might be minimal cost or maximizing cost, whatever it is, depending upon the software complexity. I was like, what's the point of running it when I know I'm not gonna be marketing it? Maybe like there are so many really good alternatives out there at maybe a really less cost. Then I think there's not gonna be a point for it to go through. So that's why I decided to sort of like close it down completely, so that I can like possibly focus on other stuff. So it just happened like pretty recent, probably a month ago, not
So
much.
that was like the last customer you had for that, and when they left, you decided to shut it down. So
Yeah.
basically, and you kind of knew, didn't you, that if my heart's not in it anymore because I don't want to promote it, then I don't kind of believe in it as much anymore. So it's time to let it go. Is that what you
Yep.
say through?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like if you're not able to, if you're not even willing to talk about it, like how can you let it be there a lot? It is example of like I've saw it recently. There's a website called like killedbygoogle.com, and
What's
you
it
would
called?
see, yeah, killedbygoogle.com.
Killed
There's a
by
website.
Google. Oh my
Yeah,
god!
and so that website shows you hundreds of products that Google actually closed, their own products that got discontinued by Google, the products that they created. And they
Wow.
are a ton of products. And like just to name a few, Google Plus, right? There was a
Yeah.
product back in the day. It's not here now. Google Podcast is they're discontinuing it in March or like in April, like this year. They're gonna be like stopping it now. That
Google
is one of the
Podcast.
product. Yes, yes. Google Podcast.
I
They're about
heard
to.
that. I was trying to think, did I hear that right? Google Podcast, because I see
Yes,
quite
yes,
a lot of shows that some of the interviews that I've been on other people's shows, and they
yeah,
use Google Podcast as one of their distribution channels, and it's like,
yes.
oh my
And
god, my interview's going
they
to
they're
disappear.
about to they're about to like discontinue it probably like in this month or next month. That is the another product, and they have ton of products if you see. So it means like when the interest is not there, you have to like let it go. So that's exactly happened for me. I waited for a last customer. He went down. I was like, okay, let's close it.
Russell Brunson. I want to talk about Russell Brunson. You interviewed Russell Brunson from ClickFunnels. How on
Yep,
earth did you get him to be interviewed by you on your special 100th episode edition, wasn't it? To go
yep.
from like seeing the ad on Instagram originally, wasn't it? Or the post that said about his funnel, and then thinking you don't know anything about funnels, and then go through all the process you've been through that you've told us, and then to interview Russell. It must
Yeah.
have been like absolutely surreal and an incredible experience. Like, how did that feel and how did that happen?
I mean, I still feel like it happened yesterday, to be
Wow.
honest, because that's the exact same thing. It's like when you actually met or like talk with somebody who you admired, who have actually became the part of your process, or you've learned everything through. It's like kind of like a dream come true type of things, right? And again, as you mentioned, from the point of me like watching Russell for the first time by an accident of watching that post to interview Russell was a a massive journey, because between that, from early 2018 to 2020, if I'm not mistaken, 2022, something like yeah, it was 2022 where I interviewed Russell on the podcast, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it was 2022 when I actually got. I just want to make sure like I don't say it like wrong in terms of like the date or so. I'm gonna check it like real quick on my
That's
profile.
okay. That's a
Yep,
that's a whole point of live stuff. People
yep,
have
yep.
there and then
Yeah,
in real
yeah,
life.
exactly. It was in 2022, 1st November. So from 2018 to 2022, like 4 years of like consistent struggles of stuff like that, figuring out the game, and then like talking to Russell Brunson was definitely amazing. So quick context around that is like in the beginning when I started the podcast, in my mind I had the thought like I would love to have Russell on the show. I didn't have the idea how to do it. So it was kind of like you're going with a blind path, but you're just going through one step at a time. So I was going through. In the first place, I had the plan of like interviewing him on 50th episode, which didn't happen. When I went around like around 85, 86 episode, I started to get like a little bit more anxious. I was like, I have to figure out a way to get Russell on the show on the 100th one. So what I did in the first place is I created this like mini community inside of Messenger, and I've added like some people out there, like the part of my circle, 20 or 25 people, because I posted like who's gonna help me to get Russell on the show. And there were like handful amount of people, even if you remember, like there are handful amount of people out there that actually got him into the community. And I've told them that if we get Russell on the show, it's not gonna be my win, it's gonna be your win as well, because one, it's not only my show. It's like it is a 4 minute mile for a lot of others who might never thought like they're gonna get Russell on the show, to see how the process would work out, and to realize like it would be possible for them as well. So I've got all of them. I got my designer, and I got my designer create these posts like 10 episode left. Will Russell gonna accept it or not? 9 episode left. Russell gonna accept it or not? And these I've created these images with Russell's image blacked out with a question mark. It was pretty, it was pretty easy to see like it was Russell, but it was kind of like blacked out with a question mark. And I was using Russell's entrance music. So I reached out to Marley Jacks and I sent her the message and I was like, "What is Russell Brunson's entrance music? What is its name?" It was like I don't remember the exact name. It was by Odessa, the song that Russell's entrance music is. So I've used that entrance music with those stories, and I've told the people in my messenger community that as soon as I'm gonna post, prior to every single episode, moving down the road now, you're gonna post it as well and tag Russell. So like let's say 10 episodes left. It's like I'm posting it. All of the others are posting it and like tagging Russell as well. And I'm sharing it on my profile, tagging Russell. We were so consistent that Russell started to watch all of those stories.
Wow.
He was watching, like, I'm not the only guy who's posting it. There's so many more. But the point was there wasn't any response. I'm like, it's not, I'm not getting the desired response I wanted. So about like 91st or 92nd, I still haven't got any response. And we were doing that thing consistently. So there was another guy who was into the exact same messenger community I had. He was like 13, 14-year-old kid from Nepal. And he sent me a message. He was like, "Hey bro, I want to help you more." I was like, "Okay, what's that?" He was like, I got Russell's Voxer access. And if you people don't know what Voxer is, it's kind of like a personal, similar to WhatsApp, but it's kind of like a personal access on that certain app, which is called Voxer. It's something similar to getting a phone number.
Oh, VOXER Voxer, yeah?
Yep,
Yeah.
correct. Yeah. So he actually sent me a message and he told me like I have Voxer access of Russell. I was like, okay, like really? He was like, yeah. He actually gave me a Voxer access and I wasn't even sure if it's real or not. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, cool. I'm gonna try it, see if it work out or not. So I went on Voxer. I sent a message, massive message like, hey, I would love to have you on the show. Like I've got a lot of amazing people. And Russell actually read it. He didn't respond it. I was
Oh,
like,
no.
oh, I was like, screw it. Because that's the closest access you can have to Russell virtually, but
Yeah.
literally going, on his personal phone number. So I went there, I sent a message, he didn't respond it. I was like, oh, screw it. So a couple days later, again, constructively, respectfully, I sent another message like, hey man, I would love to have you on the show. Let me know whatever the possibility we can make it happen. He read it, didn't respond it. Like, I'm pretty sure I messed it up. So to think about it, like even after 95 episodes, I'm thinking like I think I've messed something up. So the third message I've sent him was the picture of me promoting ClickFunnels in Pakistan back in 2020, right before COVID. I was presenting it on a stage, and I had this picture of me like presenting ClickFunnels with the ClickFunnels logo as a keynote in the back of me. Somebody took the picture, and I sent it to Russell, and I told him like, hey man, here I was back in 2020 promoting ClickFunnels in Pakistan when nobody else was mostly doing it. That was the only message I sent him. And I got a Voxer message from him. He was like, hey man, I've been watching you pinging me all over the place. Finally got the chance to respond. My life is insanely busy because of Funnel Hacking Live and ClickFunnels 2.0 launch. Uh, I would love to do it after that. And here's my email of my assistant. We can book that up. I was like super excited, but again, until it's not on the calendar, it's not finalized. So when I reached out to the assistant and I on the subject line, I've used interview Russell on the show. He said yes in a brackets because I've already reached out to her earlier and she didn't even respond. But this time I was like, he already said yes. And in my email, I sent her the screenshot of Russell giving me her email so that she can be like, okay, it is legitimate. It's not like kind of like bogus or stuff like that. So she gave me some times and she went away for a couple of days.
Oh
And
my gosh.
yeah. And here I was like super anxious. I was like, why she's not responding? Like, what happened? Stuff like that. I cannot even like bother Russell now because he already gave me the direction of where to go. And she actually went to some sort of like vacation for 3 or 4 days or something like that. I'm like, I'm glad you're back now. So she didn't find anything on my calendar. And then I told her, like, what is the time you want? She gave me time. I was like, send me the email you want. And I booked it on calendar and it officially got booked. And next day I actually announced it on Facebook, like, Russell is 100 guests. Everybody went nuts. They were like, this is crazy. But other thing was it was more a responsibility then. Again, like same thing, inviting Russell to your house and making sure that everything goes by. I think it took me like 2 months to decide the questions I have to ask from Russell
Wow.
because Russell have been like on so many podcasts, yet so little. Because if I think about it on the macro level of the magnitude of Russell, like he's been on so many podcasts over the course of like 20 years, but yet so little. I wanted to make sure the question they asked from Russell is something that never been asked before. So I've done like so much constant research. talking with like some amazing people out there. Again, the people that I got connected with because of the podcast, Shakir Hussain. I was like talking with him. He gave me some advice of like what type of questions I should ask, and I asked those questions. The last question I asked from him was how he's planning to retain his legacy before he's gone, which was a
That was
tough
a
question.
killer question. I was actually watching that
Yeah,
episode.
I remember, and I asked him this question, and I was a little bit hesitant, but I was like, "Screw it, I'm gonna ask it." If we don't want to respond, that's fine. But he loved that question and all the other questions so much that once after the interview ended, his assistant actually told me like Russell loved the interview because you've done so much of research about him. He was super happy, and later after the interview ended, the team actually repurposed it. A lot of like content have been repurposed from the interview, and they posted on from Russell's socials, from his Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, stuff like that. I was like, what else you want, right? That isn't it the whole intent. And the crazy part is 30 minutes prior, because I don't know if you remember it or not, but what happened was everybody was like, kind of like either doing a countdown prior to the interview starting, or everybody was having these like quick chit chats or stuff like that prior to the interview start or not. What happened was like 30 minutes prior of the interview actually starting out, Russell accepted my friend request. I'm
Oh my
like,
god,
okay. I'm like, okay, like now things are getting a little bit unusual. I wasn't expecting this to happen. It
that's
means
really
like, because I've sent him the friend request a couple of years ago. It means like he went on Facebook, he searched my name, he accepted my friend request just to
uh,
see like how to go and move things forward, right? So for me thinking about it, and I was having dinner and I stopped my dinner. I was like, I cannot have my dinner after this. So so that was definitely a crazy experience, and things started to change a lot again after that, because that was a big shift in terms of, again, one, authority, and second, like how people start to perceive. uh, because in Pakistan, there are a lot of amazing digital marketers in this space who are like, some decent influencer in the digital marketing community. And when I tell them like I interviewed Russell on the podcast, they're like, how in the hell have you got Russell? because
yeah.
because all of them follows Russell as well, and his learning, his teachings. They bought a lot of their books, courses. Like, how you got Russell with so much of less following compared to them, because they got like a lot of 100,000 followers, million, never got the access. I was like,
Yes.
that's the game.
Yeah, because on your YouTube show, you've gone from very small amounts of
Yep,
people, and you're still getting these 6, 7, 8, 9 figure entrepreneurs, even with like less than 2,000 subs on your YouTube
correct.
show.
Yep,
And you had less than a
100%.
thousand for ages, and you were still getting
Yep,
these really big names. So
exactly.
how does that work out? Because most people think, oh, you've got to have like hundreds of thousands of followers to be able to get any of these big names. How can you be so confident and so like it doesn't matter like how many you've got, you can still do this? What advice would you
Yeah.
give to people like around?
So one of the advice that I actually give to a lot of people is realizing that, again, as I mentioned earlier, podcast is your home, right? One is like it's all about experience. The most important thing a lot of people want to avoid is like who's gonna waste their time and who's not. If I'm gonna be on your show and I know for a fact that you're gonna waste my time, why should I gonna come it in the first place? You getting my point?
Yes.
So that is the reason why people compare the number of vanities to like not wasting time. But if you're name dropping those people, or like earlier on, like these are the people I've already interviewed, like in high number chances they could say yes. In some cases you might not have those people. There are a lot of people out there that could say yes without knowing about like how much is your audience. So you can still get those low hanging fruit first. And there are still some people who is gonna say like how much your subscriber, or get back to me after certain subscriber. That's fine, because that's their criteria. You can always send them a message is like, what is the best way I could get back to you again and get the podcast booked? And they will give you the certain criteria, and then when you like either close to it or met their criteria, like get back to them. Not a lot of people gonna have these massive criterias, and that's something that most people don't understand. If you are somebody who's a really good communicator, who converse well, and people love to be part of your show and love to have conversation with you, that in of itself is a win, because that could result in a better content in long form, that could result in a better content short form. You're getting these things done for them by asking these amazing questions, having these amazing conversations, because you're extracting information out of them. Not a lot of people are able to do it, and then you're also giving them the content in terms of like short form or long form, like out of the blue. You're giving all of these things for them for sort of like free. You're not even like charging them. You're getting me? So extracting the information from them is an art. Listening is an art. Not interrupting is an art. uh Doing all of them actually mess those things up. Like, interrupting somebody, like keep speaking, or like interrupting, is something that is super common. That happened like last week. I was co-hosting with somebody a podcast in Urdu, and in my local language, and they were keep interrupting the other, because the other person was kind of like a co-host with me, and they would keep interrupting the guest, and I was getting super frustrated, because I was like, that's not who I am. I don't interrupt my guest until that person actually speaks to the end and like have something to say, even if it's a sort of like a conversation. And that person was like making me super frustrated. So thinking about in these ways, you will save you a lot from vanities. I'm not gonna say like people not gonna say how much subscriber you have, but most of them are always like, who's gonna waste my time, who's not. Russell
It's
never asked from me how much subscriber you have.
that's
He didn't
great.
ask. He didn't bother to see like how much subscriber I had. He never asked from me that. He said yes.
It's great. It's very interesting because I'm going to be on someone's show. I'm not going to mention in this context whose it is, and this person like has over 4 million listeners.
Oh wow.
They actually have more than that collectively. I think this is just on their show. It's not a podcast, it's a radio show
Hmm.
actually. But when I was listening to their style, because I was doing research before I filled in all their application, I'd already pitched to them because I'm with Blue Talks Experts Bureau now. So I'd
Hmm.
already
Yep.
pitched to them during that. And I got accepted. They're like, yeah, I really want to get you on the show. So then I had to go through their assistant and I had to give further information. And when I was listening to their show, they interrupt the guest a lot. That's one of the things they actually do. And they've got millions of listeners. And I'm like shocked at how much that as the host, they interrupt their guests. And so that's very different
Exactly.
style to me. But obviously it must work for them in some capacity for the amount of listeners they've got consistently and the fact they've got this amazing radio show and they're very well known, and I'm really looking forward to being on their show. I just know that when I'm doing their show, my actual conversation with them is going to be reduced to my own content because it's going to be
Yep.
more with them talking and interjecting, giving their advice because that's their style. So I was absolutely shocked though, because it's not something I would personally usually do. And I was thinking for a 25-minute interview, the guest is like speaking, I think, for about 10 minutes or maybe 13, and then the host is speaking the rest of the time. So
You're
I
prepared
think
for it.
yeah, I think I've got to get used to that because it's kind of like
Exactly.
very different. So I think we have to also look that you could get a host like that, and you've got to be prepared as a guest as well. It's not something
Yes.
personally I don't think it's great to be that way for a show that I do. I think it's good to let the guest talk as much as possible. I was going to ask you, when do you know it's the right time to interject with your guests? When is it right for you? Like, because obviously, if you're going along a conversation, there might be a question you got, and then by the time they finish talking, you might have 3 or 4 different questions which you've got to hold in your mind to then ask them. How do you decide when to interject? When's a good time, do you think, personally?
Yeah. So what I think personally is, one is not interrupting them, because it is like they're going into one direction, and you're like holding them back, and put them up into a different direction, which first of all is disrespectful, right? It is disrespectful. And as you mentioned, about that certain host that you were researching around, and you're gonna be the part of it. It's like sometimes you never know what content works, and then nobody have ever actually told them like this was a wrong your way of doing it, and they're like consistently start to lead up with this process, and they are getting used to it, and that becomes their habit. uh, that is the other reason why that becomes their process, which is not good, not great, but it's something like sort of like that's not exactly the thing that could have been like working for them. It could be topic, could be the guest, right? So many different factors come into place. So for me, what I do is while them talking, if somebody or some question comes into my mind, I either like quickly note it down so that it stays there so I don't forget about it. And then when they end it, I could say something like, hey, I have a quick follow up question around this, and then I can get back to that exact same point and can start talking about that thing again, so that I'm not interrupting them, so that they don't even like forget about what they were supposed to be saying, so that they can at least like say those things completely, and then we can talk about whatever the next follow up thing I had. And like anytime you're probably gonna notice it, I would never interrupt my guest until or unless what happens is like the internet lag comes along and you sometimes don't know like the guest is speaking and internet lag happened. Apart from that, it doesn't happen, because what happens is like you're creating these like awkward interaction with the guest, and it is disrespectful if me as a guest and as a host start to critique and get on other people's podcasts. The most common tip when they ask for me after the podcast ends is I'm like, let me talk. Like don't interrupt me all the time when I'm speaking on something. I might not feel bad because they're learning and I know like I was there first. That's still fine to me. But I think if they ask me, I would love to give them like some harsh tips. So yeah, I think that's the process I actually try to go from. Never interrupt them. Keep taking notes, and then I like follow up back on that certain point.
I want to just touch on your Decades and Days book and also the people you interview. How many of the people you interview, the top entrepreneurs, so 6, 7, 8, and 9-figure authors, have their own book out? If you
Uh,
if you roughly know that, and why did you decide to write a book, and how did that play a part in your business?
yeah. So right now I've probably like interviewed somewhere around like 133, 34. Yeah, I have the copy of it. Like, yep.
This is RJ's book, by the way.
Yep.
Yeah.
So so I have interviewed like anywhere between like 133 or 34 people right now on the podcast. And when I launched the book itself, I think I've interviewed 50 people around that time. Back in like 2021, something around that. So so I was like, one thing I never thought, again, that was also the other objection I had. I never thought I'm gonna write anything like, books or so, anything like that, because we have saw so many amazing books published by authors with a publisher, and books like that are everlasting, Think and Grow Rich, Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. These books are everlasting, right? They are like relevant. How it was like 25 years ago, 50 years ago, still relevant now. So that was the biggest misconception I had. Like to launch a book, you have to be like long lasting, relevant, stuff like that. And it got disrupted by by Dana Derricks when I was like consuming his content, stuff like that. And he once told like, you don't need a publisher, you don't need a ghostwriter, you can self publish your books. And I was like, that is amazing. So and then I was like, what are the things I can talk about in a book that could even like make sense or even justify for me to write. I don't want to like have shit in the book and be like, oh, that's a book. I wanted to have something I could even like be any sort of like proud of. That's the main thing. So I was like, I cannot write affiliate marketing because that's a way broader topic. I cannot talk about traffic because I think Russell have done incredible job on the traffic side. I don't need to write books around traffic stuff. You've done a really good job on it. I was like, what are the things I can do? So then I thought about like, what if I compile from the 50 interviews I've done, I compile like 30 from every single person on a different topic, compile it as my personal takeaways of what I personally learned from those people, and then compress it into a book. That's how the idea of the book came along. I still wasn't able to decide what's gonna be the name of the book. I've actually got most of the book done. And again, I was talking with one of my friend, Shakir Hussain, and I was having a conversation with him, and like randomly he actually said like, why don't you do it like Decades and Days, the book to learn from, decades of experience of successful entrepreneurs and how to learn how to build yourself and your business online. The title and subtitle. I was like, that is so good. That title is so good. And I saw the domain that was like sort of like available, decadeinddaysbook.com. Decadeinddays.com wasn't available, but decadeinddaysbook.com was available. So I was like, like let me buy it. So I bought it. I started to work on the book or stuff. Uh, Started most of the things like by myself, and then like hired somebody like to put things in place, put it on like Amazon Kindle and like KDP and print on demand, and without a publisher, without a ghostwriter or stuff like that, I was able to launch my own book. And I never thought about like in the first place people gonna buy my book. That's first. Second is like in the funnel there was audiobook as well. So people can buy audiobooks, people can buy physical copy alongside with it. Some people bought audiobook as well. I was like, I won't even like listen myself personally. People are willing to listen me on a book. So so those things were like super fascinating for me, and even like still now people are still buying for the buying the books. And that's exactly similar thing that what we discussed earlier on is like you have to have your heart and soul still into it so that you can be able to publicly talk about it, right? This book is like I will update the book because again, like this last time it was like 30 episodes, and we had like 50 episodes that time. We have done 130. I want to like extend it to from 30 to maybe like 50 to decide like which other people I could possibly add, and I would love to update it and still make it like sort of like relevant. Uh, I still think a lot of things can still be like picked up from this because I've tried to make sure that it's not like it's not getting aged with time. I wanted to make things that are still tactical and can still possibly work out. So that's I think the prime example of thing we can still talk about after it launched like 3 years ago or something like that. And I still love to promote it, love to talk about it, and people are still buying it. That's a crazy thing. People are still going to Amazon to buy the copy of the book, still reading it, still enjoying it. So yeah, that's the whole journey looked like with launching the book.
Wow. So of the people you've interviewed, how many would you say that have got their own book out as well? Is it nearly all of them, or is it only uh
So
percentage?
so ideally, what I did was when I launched the book, I sent them the copies.
Ah,
I don't wanted them to buy. I want to send them, and if they want, they can like share it with the audience. And again, not everybody did, but like I would say half of them actually shared it. I remember like Doug Bowden shared it, Jonathan Mutter shared it, Akur Sheikh shared it. I think Funnel Doc also shared it. So there were a handful amount of people who actually shared it to their audience when the book got launched. Because some of these successful people are not the part of the books. So they were like, you're so young and you're working on the book. Like hell yeah, we want to promote it. So that was their exact same thought, at the beginning. So yeah, like that's how things actually went through. And I sent them the copy. I don't wanted them to buy. I sent them the copy as as a token for being on the show, for being respectful, and because it was a challenge. Not everybody in the book likes each other. That's the other part that was also
oh
important,
no.
so yeah, and so it's like one guest is saying like, why I'm the last chapter, I should have been like earlier than this guy. Like there's so much back and forth going on, and then you have to make sure you're putting things together at the perfect time. But like it was, everybody accommodated to some extent. And again, I've done everything with their permission. I've asked them like if they want to be the part of the book. Some people weren't comfortable. I was like, I understand, I don't mind. But a lot of people said yes. I've actually got them into the book. And so it was really funny of like how I was able to like put things together, because some are like I would have been the first second chapter is why I'm the 30th chapter of the book, or 29th, etc. So but I sent them the copy at least to most of it. Like, I would say like 95% of them I sent the copy.
So the people that you've interviewed, how many of those people have had their own book? Like Russell Brunson's got his own books out.
Yep.
No, so how
Not
many
every
entrepreneurs has
I
every entrepreneur got their own book out who
I
you've
don't
interviewed?
think so everybody have their own book. uh I think so. If we categorize, maybe 50% of them have their own books. Not everybody of them. Not everybody loves to write book. They loves to read it, not loves to write it. uh and not everybody is author. I would say like 50% of them or more have not written their own book or are not authors.
And as we're coming to like all towards the end now, I want to ask you, you said about the fact that you get other people who have been on your podcast to share with their own audience. How does that work? How do you actually get them to commit to that? Because some people they're interviewed and then they're just grateful for the interview and they don't
Yep.
actually do it on their own social media. So how do you get them to do that?
So I usually make sure that I do the short form content because they want short form content, right? So it means like if I'm doing it, they're getting content for free. And it's if it's in better quality, they are more often in the video, stuff like that. They would love to share it because they are the person who is on the stage talking about stuff and portraying their authority. So one is letting them know the podcast is out. Second is like I've started to like work more around like trailers as well. Like we started to create these like badass trailers for our podcast, which creates this like hype around the guest, or like make it like look so amazing that people would love to like see the episode or stuff like that. Even the guest enjoys it and they would love to share it, that hey, I've been on this like amazing podcast, stuff like that. So creating these short form content and like adding these guests as a collaborator give you a much higher chance for them to accept it and to share it with your audience and to share the episode. So for most people, they're what they do is like they do the interview and they're like, okay, done, bye bye, and they post the episode and they don't even repurpose this content. For example, like we had the conversation for almost like about 2 hours, right? In this like 2 hours, we can have like so many of short form content that can be created by it. It is the capacity of like how you actually want to choose it. If you want to do it by yourself or AI tools. Right now, AI tools are on the boom right now, so people are using a lot of AI tools. They can still use it and get the short form content created, and stuff like that. There's so many tools that actually do this type of stuff right now. So and then post it across socials, and people miss that part. Not everybody, if you see, not everybody actually curate the reels out of their full-fledged interviews. They just do the interview and that's it. Some people who do it have horrible reels that other person might not want to accept it as collaborator. uh, that's one thing. Second is sending raw footages to the guest. If they have like some really amazing team or stuff like that and they want to edit stuff by their own means, that's completely fine. They can edit it and they can add you as a collaborator and you can accept it. Same happened in Russell Brunson's case. I've shared the footages to them and they've edited accordingly. And then like they started to tag me, stuff like that. Same goes for Dan Henry. I created my own reels, added him, he accepted it, but they edited it as well and they added me as a collaborator when they posted it. So it happens like in both ways. So sending them raw footages so that if they want to use completely, they're good to go. And like also us doing reels and also adding them.
That's amazing. You've given such great value today. Before we wrap up, I want people to know like what you can do to help them. So the done for you system that you have,
Yep.
how they can contact and connect with you and get you to help them to grow their own podcast and make money for themselves
Yep.
podcasting.
The best way to do it is actually reach out to me on Facebook. I reply like most of the people on Facebook. If I feel like a good vibe, I reply it. So if you're amazing, like reach out to me on Facebook. And if you need any help around like one, growing your own podcast, if you have one, if you don't have one, planning to have one, reach out to me still. Would love to help you out, depending upon if it's like done for you, if you want me to consult you, or however it works. I would love to help you out. Reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram. That would be the best spot and would love to assist you.
And what name do you go under for that? So what is your handle, for example,
Yeah,
or your
on
name?
Facebook it's the RJ Ahmed at the RJ Ahmed, and on Instagram it's RJ Ahmed. I'm pretty sure like Sandra is also gonna put up in the description, also in show notes, so people can like go and check those out.
Yeah, your link's already in the show notes before I even went live with you. So how long have we known each other now? It must be
It's
ages
been a
because
couple of years. It's first time we actually interacting, which is
yeah.
interacting on a call, because we've been connected on Facebook from a couple of years now, which is amazing just to see like how things goes.
Yeah, because I think I met you in Russell's group, didn't I?
Yep.
Wasn't that how we got connected? So I've been in your group for ages and I've seen you grow. And I think you changed the name to Interviews with Entrepreneurs since I've been in your group. So we
Yep.
must have been connected for absolutely years. So
Yep.
it's
Yeah.
amazing.
I would say like at least 3 years. or more, for sure.
Thank you so much for your valuable insights, information, and all the help you've given our listeners today. And I really appreciate you.
Truly
And
appreciate, Sandra.
yeah, and if you're listening to this right now, don't forget, there is nothing that happens without action. So don't forget to put the law of action back in attraction and make things happen for you. Yay! Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to
Awesome. Bye bye.
subscribe and hit the bell icon if you're on YouTube.